die, they said, thinking he was dead, so we're not quite sure exactly what happened, if it was a miracle from God or not. But what they would do is you would get as big of a stone as you could find. You had to be so far up in the air, so he basically had to be down a hill. And whoever was wanting to commit you as guilty would then throw whatever size rock they could find. You were allowed to throw one, and then you could leave. So basically, you know, and you had to pick up your boulder and throw it, you know, so there was a certain height limit and depth and everything else from that. People did survive it. But that's what a stoning was. So we don't know how many people stoned Paul, but enough to think that he was dead. He then gets up at Lystra and does what? Walks right back into the city. No ifs, ands, or buts. No, I don't think I should go back there. Maybe we should walk around the city gates. No, he walks right back in the city, collects all the people he's with, decides to go away, and then what does he do? He comes back. He comes back to the same city again. How would you like to be the person who thought he was dead? Thinking, oh, you know what? You know, here he comes again, walking again. You know, you're not allowed to stone him again, but what's going on here? Paul has great faith. He has great faith in God. He's putting people in charge of the church that he just planted. See, Paul went on missionary journeys or evangelism courses. I don't know what you would call them, but he did this thing where he traveled around. And on his first missionary journey, because he went on 3 and then he went to Rome, on his first traveling trip, he went and stayed at places and made disciples. The second 2, he went places and built churches. So at this point, he's just going places and making disciples and leading churches there. So what is he doing? He's setting up the kingdom of God, because we see now that Peter kind of fades away and Paul kind of becomes the main story, the driving force of the story. The story of redemption. Paul was what? A guy that wanted to kill Christians. He was a guy that was after stoning Christians. He was one that would be stoning people, you know, and he kind of then had the reverse taken upon him. His mission from God was to go and spread the news that there is a new way. With great faith, Paul went. With great hardship, Paul went. With greatness, Paul went. The picture that you see is by Van Gogh. Vincent Van Gogh painted it. It's hailed as his magnum opus, I think I'm saying that right, also known as great work or masterpiece. This is his biggest painting. This is his most famous. It actually resides right now in New York City, in a gallery in New York City. I think it would be amazing to see it. I think it's one of my favorite pieces of art there is. I don't know what it is about it, but I see the turmoil, I see hardship, I see pain and struggle inside of it, but then I also see hope. I like the predominant sun inside of the starry night, or star, that is shining bigger and brighter than all of them. And if you know anything about art, advertisement, anything like that, where do you put the symbol, the thing that you want seen the most inside of an advertisement? When you're looking at it, in the upper right corner. If I was to flash you something, and I don't have anything, I probably should have did it, gone like that with it, and I put, you know, a circle here with a, you know, a pentagram, and then everything else was Christian literature. If I went like this to you, and I should have did that, I didn't even think about it, but you would notice the pentagram. Your mind can't comprehend anything but what is in the right-hand corner. Why do you think that most, up until like English, most places that would do writing wrote where? Yeah, they started in the right-hand corner. Our brains are fixated on that corner whenever time we look at something. So as you see turmoil coming through this painting, you see the wind, whatever it is, fighting to get through the painting. In the corner of hope, we have the brightest star. In the corner that we see first, we have the brightest star. The song, does anybody know the song that was playing? Song's probably my favorite piece of classical music. It's Night on Bald Mountain by, and I'm going to butcher his name, Mossorgsky, Mossorgsky. He lived in Russia. and I'm guessing was Polish by the ski, but he lived in Russia. He composed in the late 1800s. Night on Bald Mountain. Anytime I heard Night on Bald Mountain as a child, and I just was drawn to it, and it reminded me of this painting. I don't know if it's the Night on Bald Mountain and A Starry Night that wraps them together, but they wrap themselves together with me. And I know I can't sing or do any of that. It starts off deep, it starts off heavy, and then there's an interjecting, an energy that comes through that piece, comes through that, and they just go together for me. This composer, however you want to pronounce his name, that is his most famous piece. That's probably his masterpiece, his standard. And they just go hand in hand. They have that same theory with me. I don't know, there's just something about that. But I then turn to our Christian lives. And we're told we are God's masterpiece. We are God's greatness. Each and every one of us were what? Formed by God inside of the womb, we're told. We're told that God knows us inside and out, our deepest thoughts, the numbers of hairs on our head. He knows us. We are His masterpiece. Paul, who had the most chutzpah you could possibly imagine. I mean, he had, big giant marbles. He was very bold, very strong. To be stoned and then walk back into the same place. To travel around and say, hey, I set up this church, you go and do it. He had faith, he had trust. He's kind of in the story of the Bible, the story of the New Testament, we have Jesus, we have Peter, and then we have Paul, who kind of wraps up the rest. He's the reason that we're probably sitting here. Paul's the one that started it. He's the one that exploded with him. He's the one that had the chutzpah to go and do it. But the thing is, God gives us all something that we are called to do. We are God's masterpiece. We are called to do things. My painting, I would say on a scale of 1 to 10 is about a -3. When Van Gogh's is probably, what, a 100? On a scale of 1 to 10? Do you ever think you're this when God's called you to be that? All you can think of is in this term. I'm a mess with watercoloring. I'm a mess. I don't even know if you